In my time as an alleged media critic, also known as my life, I actually haven't seen a ton of anime. Oh sure, I've heard the tales about how good Cowboy Bebop or Fullmetal Alchemist was, but I was never much of an anime guy myself.
16 paranoia-filled days later.
Yeah, I mean, the English dub of Death Note was pretty good, despite me being more of a sub guy myself. Wait, no!
One debt to society later.
Damn it, I'm a weeb now, aren't I? How did I get here? The answer? Attack on Titan. Yeah, you know what I'm talking about. The anime that everyone hates, but everyone actually loves. The show adapted from the manga that was criticized for having such grating, ugly illustration. The show that your kid cousin will just not shut up about. Yeah, that show. But Attack on Titan didn't just get me hooked on anime. It also changed me in a strange and profound way. I am a different person after viewing all 4 seasons of this anime that everyone can't get over loving and hating at the same time. So grab a snack and a blanket because, oh boy, we are in for a ride. One thing you needed to know about me pre-Attack on Titan is that I didn't just not watch anime. Oh no, I despised it. I avoided it wherever I could. As far as I was concerned, it was over-sexualized, overhyped, and, well, weird. But even in spite of all that, Attack on Titan was not my first anime. I had Ronin Warriors, Voltron, the Street Fighter 2 movie my dad insisted on showing me, and a few others. Not to mention that I also had a lot of Japanese video games too when I was growing up, everything from Mario to Final Fantasy. But I still had this kind of weird, snobbish resentment towards anime. How did I go from that to watching Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood and Fullmetal Alchemist 2003 back to back? Well, brace yourself for this one. It's Undertale's fault. Yes, you heard me right. The 2015 indie video game is what eventually made me discover possibly the greatest show to ever exist. Please don't click away from the video. I swear I'm going somewhere with this. I played Undertale because of how people told me that it was weird and meta, and it 100% lived up to my expectations. But I wasn't prepared for the absolute and utter torrent of content that is the Undertale fanbase. I'm not going to get into the merch, or the cosplays, or the music covers, or the AUs, or the webcomics, or the fan games. But suffice to say, I was overwhelmed and intrigued. Like many nerds, I have a certain proficiency to immerse myself in various fanbases. And what interested me most about the Undertale fanbase was a little project, I know I say little, but it's really one of the most impressive fan projects I've ever seen, named Underverse, which is a combination of all the Undertale AUs into one huge adventure, a show spanning a prequel show in 2 seasons, one finished, one still ongoing. It's meta, crazy, and insanely nerdy. Or in other words, just my style. Underverse actually exceeded my expectations by a long shot. I'm not going to say much more for fear of spoiling it, but you do need to know a bit about the Undertale AUs before you watch Underverse. If that's even something you're interested in the first place. But the quality of writing and animation in Underverse is actually quite impressive. And it might not seem like much, but this was really the jumping off point that eventually led me to Attack on Titan. As you can probably tell from the background footage, Underverse and X-Tale are animated with an anime-adjacent animation style, and for the first time, I really realized how good anime looks. Yeah, it's not really realistic with all that heavy stylization, but the style is extremely visually attractive and consistent. Of course, this depends on the artist, but the symmetry, form, and style found in anime is incredibly impressive. This isn't just me gushing about how much I like you anime eyes and, other things. This is about the objective quality of the art style itself, and even I, the jaded anime hater, had to concede, anime looks great. Underverse is no exception, of course, and JL Peneloz's work really showed me that. Also, I got into a bit of a habit watching Underverse every night. It was like an unwinding tactic. But before I knew it, I watched all that Underverse had to offer. I could just sit here twiddling my thumbs waiting for Underverse .7 Part 2 to come out, or I could find something else. Call me a weirdo, call me crazy, but watching a single anime-adjacent web series was enough to make me want more. I needed a good starting show, something tame enough to get started on, but not something stupid that I'd regret watching, and it had to be Halo Legends. Perfection. For real though, I'm glad I started on something a little bit more laid back. Halo Legends is alright if you're like me who loves Halo and anime. It's not a perfect blend of the two, but it's alright. Maybe this is what Star Wars fans felt when Visions came out. Oh well. Maybe I'll get around to watching that later. But call it an accident, call it fate. I stumbled into Attack on Titan in a pretty strange way. Turns out, Fortnite crossovers are powerful things.
Nah, if we being that serious, I did not expect to wake up this morning to play some Fortnite. And to be honest, I wasn't even expecting a new season, but here we are. We're here, baby. I'm gonna keep it a stack with you. I'm only here for one reason and one reason only. Come on, do I even gotta say much?
Amazing.
Look, I don't even play Fortnite!
But I thought Attack on Titan was as good as any at point to start off with. On surface level, it looked relatively tame, a lot of people liked it, so that seemed reason enough for me to try it. Little did I know then what this show would do to me, how this show would change me. So, let's start at the beginning. From here to the end of the video is spoiler territory. If you haven't seen Attack on Titan yet, you need to stop this video right now and go see it. That is an order. I don't care if you're not a fan of anime. I don't care if you're not the kind of person who cares about spoilers. You need to see this show. It is a true masterpiece of modern art. Last call for spoilers, and now I'm going to get back into the video. There were only two things I knew about Attack on Titan going into it. A, Titans exist, and B, they eat people. As it turns out, that is the basis for the plot of the entire show. It's so ridiculously simple and uncomplicated that it almost seems absurd. Everyone loves this really simplistic and uncomplicated anime about giant, naked humanoid monsters who eat people. Anyway, I digress. The show starts with a wide shot of an open field, and this is where we're introduced to two of our main characters, Mikasa Ackerman and Eren Yeager. I say two of our main characters because Attack on Titan has a very large cast of characters, many of whom serve critical roles to the story. Mikasa and Eren have lived inside the Great Walls their entire lives, protected from the mighty, flesh-eating titans that prowl the wilderness without. But, as it turns out, Eren just so happens to have main character syndrome and wants to venture outside the walls to see the wonders of creation. Eren's mom is, of course, not cool with this, but Eren's dad knows that it can't be helped. From this point on, Eren is established as a fiercely determined individual, even from childhood. Eren's dad offers to show Eren the secret basement when he returns, which supposedly contains something Eren should know about the Titans before he ventures out into the wilderness. So far, we have a textbook setup for a television show. Wanderlust-ridden main character, protective dude protagonist, mysterious dad, and even the smart friend guy, Armin. So, nothing too mind-blowing so far, right? Wrong. So utterly wrong. I was not prepared for what came next. Simply talking about it does not begin to do it justice. There are tons of shows out there that hit you with emotional angst and depression, but Attack on Titan truly is another beast altogether. The second half of the first episode of Attack on Titan makes you watch as Titans destroy the wall separating mankind from an entire race of building-sized man-eating monsters. The sheer magnitude of these monsters is incredible. The humans' attempts to escape or resist are met with very simple fates. They are eaten. They're not swallowed whole nor torn apart. They're eaten like you or I might eat a sandwich in the most natural fashion possible. There is something about humans being devoured in such a simple, helpless way that is so primally terrifying, so filled with existential dread. Attack on Titan is a show that does not pull its punches when it comes to death. Remember how earlier I said Attack on Titan has a large cast? Well, that's only half true. How do I put this? The characters of Attack on Titan die often and always brutally. Part of why Attack on Titan has worked as well as it has is because it gives you such a large cast of deeply human characters. Characters that are so easy to connect with, characters so disadvantaged by their situation, characters who are so prone to love, anger, joy, sadness, and fear. It makes you watch as it kills them off in front of your eyes, eaten by massive, uncaring monsters as they scream and writhe. Attack on Titan is a dark show. That's a really simple way of putting it, but it's as true as I can make it. It shows you the fragility of human life and how little the behemothic forces of nature really care. This is, at its core, what death feels like. It's brutal. It's unfair. Attack on Titan makes you feel that same fear, that same helplessness that the characters feel as their home is invaded by creatures against whom they stand no chance. And we're still only talking about the first episode. This is gonna take a while. One of the first people to be devoured in the initial Titan attack is Eren's mom, whom he is unable to rescue from a pile of smashed debris. This scene is striking for a lot of reasons. The music, the facial expressions, the size difference between Eren's mom and the Titan's hideous grin, the lighting, everything. This scene is the work of many masters working in unison. Masters of voice acting, masters of music, masters of animation. Killing off a parent of the main character isn't really an original idea for a movie or television show, but I've never seen a piece of media that portrays it in such a brutally cruel, hopeless way. Attack on Titan does something with its score, performances, and animation that is almost magical. Because the point of stories is to convey emotions and idea via a narrative. The emotions in Attack on Titan are so raw, so powerful that, well, that's a subject for later in the video when it starts to get to me. With our show finally set up, we can begin Eren's training. In order for him to join the Titan-killing scouts, he needs to master his omnidirectional mobility gear and the technique of striking at a Titan's weak point with 2 pairing blades. The training sequence lasts a couple of episodes before the Titans attack again and knock down the next wall, driving humanity onto their last legs. Here's where humanity makes their triumphant comeback, driving the behemoths back with their new generation of soldiers they've trained. The soldiers fight bravely and drive back the Titans, their determination allowing them to suffer minimal losses. Is what I would say if this wasn't Attack on Titan we were talking about. This is what really happens.
My friends are being devoured and all I can do is watch. Oh my God, please help me.
Soldiers whom you've come to care about in these past few episodes, people you actually thought had the chance against these monsters, are brutally killed just as helplessly as the citizens they're trying to protect. It's like the show is telling you, it's cute that you think these people you care about actually have a chance. One by one, the soldiers are eaten until all that's left is Armin and Eren, the latter driven on by the bloodlust of the moment. Surely you think Eren will be able to activate some inner reservoir of strength and kill enough Titans to escape, right? Surely the protagonist has a chance, right?
Eren! No!
We've only made it to episode 5, and 2 walls have been knocked down. The main character has been eaten, and many more people are dead. Humanity continues to lose. Lose people, lose morale, and lose hope. We see scenes of people unaliving themselves. I want to say the S word, but I can't. YouTube censorship is a bitch sometimes. Rather than face the horror of the Titans. The soldiers, now scattered and disorganized, fight to the last. Mikasa, the most talented Titan fighter of any of the rookies, finally admits defeat after she breaks the last of her blades. She kneels, accepting her fate. But at that moment, long after any hope has disappeared, help comes in the most unexpected of ways. A lean, muscular Titan appears, seemingly out of nowhere to kill the Titans besetting the soldiers. Is this fate? Is this a merciful coincidence? A fortunate anomaly? Whatever it is, it's given the humans a fighting chance, even if it's one they can't control. It creates an opening big enough for the soldiers to escape, but the strange titan is overwhelmed. It manages to take out a few more titans before it finally goes down, but it slumps to the ground, defeated. The soldiers, knowing their temporary advantage is gone, turn to flee, all except Armin. He watches the corpse of the strange titan as something begins to emerge from its nape, the body of a human being, Eren Yeager. This is where the show truly starts to gain momentum. Like a freight train barreling forward, it takes all the emotional anguish you have been suffering for 5 episodes and places within it a spark of hope. Eren Yeager's mysterious ability to transform into a titan. Much of the show is dedicated to finding out the truth behind this phenomenon, but for the present, it seems that it is humanity's only hope for survival. In spite of everything, Eren uses his ability to drive the Titans out and repair the hole in the second wall, halting the Titans' advance. After all the death, tragedy, and despair, Attack on Titan finally allows the humans some small victory. And that's not the first season, nor even the end of the first arc, but by the time Eren emerged from the Attack Titan, I was invested. I hadn't been moved, not yet, but I was shocked. I never expected this to be so honestly and brutally written, so full of pure human emotion. It had an emotional effect on me, more profound than any piece of popular art I'd ever experienced. So, I kept watching. I would like to say that this is the part when Attack on Titan calms down and settles into a kind of groove, but I'd be lying to you if I said that. Humanity's struggle for survival continues, and more innocent people die. We are introduced to a few more characters: Zoe Hanji, Erwin Smith, and of course, the absolutely stunning Levi Ackerman. All 3 are leaders in the Scouts, a group of soldiers who lead expeditions beyond the safety of the Great Walls. Most of the main characters join the Scouts to initiate a counterattack against the Titans. Unfortunately, this counterattack is all but brought to a halt at the appearance of a new Titan, the female Titan. Wait. Really? That's all you could come up with? It doesn't take long for the main cast to speculate that the female Titan is in fact a human and may be hiding among the ranks of the soldiers. So the hunt begins, but the female Titan is the most formidable foe humanity has faced yet. She's so fast that Levi's own group of handpicked soldiers fall to her strength and speed. Even the Scouts are on the run, divided by her relentless assaults. And so, we come to a part that was pivotal in my journey through Attack on Titan. Granted, in the grand scheme of things, it's not that striking, but affected me in such a strange and powerful way. There's a part in the show where 2 of the Scouts beg Captain Levi to turn the troop around and go back for the body of their dead friend. Levi counters, saying that as long as they can confirm that he's dead, there's no point in retrieving his body. These 2 young men just lost their friend, and Levi scolds them without a sign of emotion on his face. Later in the same episode, these 2 young men defy orders and go back for their friend's dead body anyway. In doing so, they draw more Titans onto the Scouts' position. The corpse of the dead friend was recovered, but during the chase, one of the 2 friends is grabbed and eaten. But the pursuing Titans are too much for the Scouts to handle on the open terrain. So Levi gives the order to leave behind all the corpses of Scouts they've recovered in hopes that it will slow down the Titans and allow the Scouts to escape. After everything that's happened, after everyone they've lost, they do it. The one man who wanted to recover the corpse of his dead friend is now alone, having lost his other friend to Titans in the attempt. His heroic, self-sacrificing spirit has been broken, and worse, he has nothing to show for it. Levi approaches the devastated young man, emotionless as always, but when he opens his mouth, it's not to scold. He holds out to the man the insignia of the dead friend that Levi managed to recover. Here, Levi says, "This was Ivan's." The young man looks down at the insignia, shocked. A soft piano tune begins to play in the background. He begins to cry as Levi gets back on his horse, cutting a sad and pathetic figure in the dust as he weeps over the last meaningless remains of his friend. Episode 22 of Attack on Titan Season 1 is named The Defeated, and this is the time when Attack on Titan finally broke me. I have a strange relationship to how tragedy in art affects me. The first time I remember seeing something truly sad in a piece of art was in The Land Before Time, when Littlefoot's mom dies. To this day, I will not watch that scene. Every time I watch it, it seems so real. I feel like that's my mom there dying in front of my very eyes. And I saw it when I was very young, maybe 6 or 7, but it stuck with me all these years. Ever since, I have become an individual extremely adverse to crying at pieces of art, especially in public. I became quite good at shielding myself from a show or movie's attempts at moving me to sadness. I came into Attack on Titan with this same shield, but at that moment, when the young man stood alone, crying over the insignia of his dead friend, my armor was fractured. Not because of how incredibly presented and executed this scene was, but because at that moment, I was there. That moment was real. I felt as if a good friend of mine had died. And I don't say that flippantly either. I may not be as acquainted with grief as some of you, but I know what it feels like to lose someone you love. For the remaining minutes of the episode, I sat there late at night alone in front of my monitor with a sense of profound loss. In a few moments, the episode was over. I was still crying. I couldn't stop, but I couldn't bring myself to watch anymore. I shut down my computer and walked down the stairs, still in tears. I remember standing in front of the bathroom mirror, saying to myself over and over, "Stop crying. These people you're crying for don't exist. They never did." I finally stopped, and soon after, I was fast asleep in bed. But that moment stuck with me. It was on my mind when I got up and started work in the morning. I had wept, somewhat against my will, over a piece of art. Even now, reading this script, I have difficulty parsing out just exactly what I was thinking and feeling in that moment. But Attack on Titan was beginning to affect me in a way that no novel, no movie, or video game ever had. Never in my life had I seen such a raw display of emotion in art, so complete in illustration, voice acting, and music. At this point, Attack on Titan became more than a great anime. It became great art. After watching the Season 1 finale of Attack on Titan, I was hooked. I was on a collision course to watch all of it, and I couldn't watch anything else until I was finished. Until I'd seen the end. The writing was good, the tension and drama quite literally the best I'd ever seen, and the characters were almost real. I began Season 2 with high hopes, and, I'm only going to say this once about a piece of popular art. Season 2 of Attack on Titan mucked up the narrative pretty badly, but in spite of that, Attack on Titan is still a masterpiece, perhaps still the greatest work of modern art to date. I know, coming from me, this seems a bit incredulous. I've blazed shows for their writing mistakes before, and far be it from me to say that Attack on Titan is perfect. So, Season 2 starts with some pretty heavy-hitting plot revelations, some of which make sense, others only making sense much farther down the line. Overall, Season 2 is the most important plot-wise, and oh boy, we've got a lot to talk about. So, first of all, it turns out that the walls are made of gigantic titans who must not under any circumstances be exposed to sunlight. Second, and brace yourself for this one, guys, Reiner and Bertholdt are the armored and colossal titans, respectively. If this one sounds like Hajime Isamiya pulled this one out of his ass, he probably did. I don't know if this was better foreshadowed in the manga, but it comes out of absolutely nowhere in the anime, and in the most nonchalant, undramatic way. So Reiner and Bertholdt, two of the nicest guys around, are actually deranged mass murderers and have been really good at hiding it this entire time. Thankfully, it makes much more sense later on, but not for the entire duration of Season 2 and much, if not all, of Season 3. And they don't even try to justify it until later. Okay, Galta, deep breaths. Calm down. Alright. Is that it?
No, that is definitely not it.
Also, Ymir is a Titan. Krista is actually the secret royal heir. That's not really her name. Reiner and Bertholdt have been working with Annie this entire time. Reiner has this weird thing where he switches between being a scout and being a warrior. There's an intelligent beast Titan and...
Okay, calm the frick down. Oh, man, jeez. Season 2 is a bit all over the place. series. It still has those moments of heart-wrenching drama and tension the show is known for, but they straight up muddied the damn waters when it came to the narrative. So many things are introduced but left to be expanded on until later, characters switching alliances out of nowhere. It's a mess. But if you're wondering if this should stop you, absolutely not. Season 2 is by far the shortest season, but after what a friggin' masterpiece Season 1 was, the rest of the show is still 100% worth watching. In a way, Season 2 couldn't avoid being messy for the sake of the rest of the series. Setup was required for the show to grow into what it eventually did. And I'm cool with that, even if Season 2 was mediocre overall. I'm just glad the anime got its best foot forward with the first season. Season 2 left me with more questions than answers, but it only turned out to be the calm before the storm. What happened next would change everything entirely. Season 3 is a welcome change to the messy narrative of Season 2. The plot and characters are back to being mostly consistent, and it's clear from the opening moments of the first episode that we're definitely going somewhere. This is where the show makes a more morally ambiguous turn in its narrative, pitting our main cast against human opponents instead of titans, and forcing them to torture enemies to get vital information. The effect this has on all the main characters, primarily on Armin, is intriguing. If I was a character in Attack on Titan, I'm 100% convinced I'd be Armin. Brain over brawn, always convinced he's not good enough and thinks all problems can be solved by talking it over, even if I'm not nearly as good looking as Armin. But the thing about Attack on Titan's characters is that they suffer from very real problems. I'm sure others have already brought this up, but there's a good deal of World War II imagery in Attack on Titan. It's not hard to draw similarities between the Eldians and the Jews under a Nazi Germany. The way the Marleyans twist the Eldians to be some kind of race of devils, the genetic horrors performed on them, the similar outfit design. Even the Titans themselves share similarities with the Japanese kaiju, which are renowned for their association with nuclear weaponry. Sound familiar? Eren Yeager, Ryan Brown, Annie Leonhardt, and many other names from the show are German in origin. Now, it would be ridiculous to say that this show has some kind of political point to make, but the purpose of invoking such imagery from the bloodiest war in human history is to remind us that in spite of all the ODM gear, all the giant monsters and magic, everything these characters are going through is real. All this pain, this danger, this angst and sadness, it's so raw and unfiltered. Honest would be a good word for it. But in any case, I digress. For the first time in the show's runtime, just when our heroes finally have a good chance at defeating the Titans, we have to question whether or not they're the real good guys here. And it's here when we first witness the beginning of Eren's transformation into the show's villain. But it's also here where the show had another profound effect on my psyche in a way that almost scared me. You see, I was a huge fan of this new twist in the story. In any story about the struggle against profound evil and impossible odds, it was only inevitable that the classic moral question of what separates the good guys from the bad guys might pop up. After all, true conflict is never black or white. It's never as simple as good guys versus bad guys, and again, Attack on Titan does a brilliant job of portraying that moral ambiguity about how the good guys struggle to make immoral tactics and good intentions meet. But in any case, I was enjoying myself immensely. But one thing that popped up now and again throughout the third season, keeping in stride with the morally ambiguous theme, was the notion that the good guys should find a way to free Annie from her crystal and pry, possibly torture, her for information. This was mentioned once or twice, but it mostly flew under the radar, and since this never happens in Season 3, I don't know why what happened actually happened. Sometime during when I was watching through Season 3, I had a dream. It felt fairly convincing, as many dreams do. This one took place in an area that I recognized with people I knew. I was at a relative's house, on a couch in the living room. I was surrounded by people, most of whom were crowded in the hall by the stairwell. Some of them I recognized as family, others were people I'd never seen before but vaguely resembled family friends. I was being judged for something, but for what, I didn't know. Everyone told me that I'd done something terrible, but no one would tell me what, not even when I asked. Finally, it was my dad's turn to condemn me, but I couldn't take it anymore. I started crying. Without knowing what I was saying, I said, "You weren't there. You don't understand. My dad replied with, "What don't I understand?" Because, well, dreams are odd that way. But what I said next only made sense after I woke up. "I killed her, Dad. I killed Annie," I said. "You don't understand. There's nothing I can do to make you understand." Suddenly, the thinking part of my brain was sparked. I became cognizant of my actions and that I was in a dream, and I woke up. But there was no question on the forefront of my mind, only a realization. When I said that I killed Annie, I could only be referring to Annie from Attack on Titan. Why would I kill Annie? Well, the implication was obvious to me. Since the show discussed torturing her for information, she was probably tortured to death at my hands. But that was impossible. I wasn't a character in this show. Annie couldn't even break out of her crystal if she wanted to. It wasn't as if Armin, a character I see myself in and empathize with, and who is also regretting his action, has a special connection to Annie and might potentially be broken if he was forced to trespass his conscience towards her. I never knew how much of an effect Attack on Titan was having on me up until this point. I was so engrossed in the story, so enthralled by the conflict, that I was almost tricking my psyche into believing that this story was real and that I was a part of it. Am I crazy here? Am I just nuts? Have I lost my mind over watching too much anime? And the strangest thing about this dream is that it wasn't even about Attack on Titan. It was all about the idea that one day I'd have to break my morals to do something I considered to be the greater good, and Attack on Titan was the subconscious catalyst for all this. Maybe I'm just reading into this too much. Maybe I just had a weird dream with a tentative connection to an anime that I'd been watching at the time. This is when I started thinking hard, really hard, about what made Attack on Titan so compelling to me. I thought and thought until I was no longer thinking about what made Attack on Titan so compelling, but about what made art itself so compelling. About how fictional characters in a fictional world filled with made-up things fighting monsters that never existed in battles that never happened could inspire such real, visceral reactions in us. Attack on Titan Season 3 ends with some pretty hard-hitting revelations, but unlike Season 2's revelations, they actually make sense because they answer questions we already have. It also ends on a fairly positive note, laced with mystery for what the future may bring for the show. But after everything I'd experienced along the way, I wouldn't miss Season 4 for the world. I didn't want it to end, but I was starving for catharsis. I needed to see these suffering characters finally win their paradise. Season 4 begins unlike any season before it. For the first time, we see human civilization outside the walls, modern day, through the eyes of someone who's living through it. There are no characters we recognize, no names we know. It's like starting from nothing. Slowly but surely, as the season unfolds, we get more revelations as to the nature of Attack on Titan's world, the origins and the motive behind the attack on the walls. It's the knowledge we've all been craving, and everything finally starts to make sense as the pacing gets faster. At this point, so many characters have died that the few we have left are just that much more precious to us. But this is where the ends justify the means debate comes to a boiling point. The scouts launch an attack on Marley before they can gather their forces, resulting in a devastating blow for the nation. This is meant to mirror the first episode where Titans attack the walls, showing that the good guys are willing to become as scummy as the villains in order to achieve what they believe is the greater good. It's absolutely heartbreaking to see these characters we know and love be forced to resort to villainous tactics to defeat their enemies. And the worst part of it is that every character in this show feels this downward spiral of evil, and everyone knows it's inevitable. Its toll on the characters is rough, but none so much as Eren. Convinced that there's no other way to secure freedom for him and his allies, he decides to use the colossal titans waiting inside the great walls of his home island to trample the rest of the world in an event known only as the Rumbling. It's only a logical extension of the ends justify the means argument, but seeing what Eren becomes doesn't make it any easier to accept. So the gang sets out to stop their friend from destroying the world. Everyone suits up, and Levi... yes, we have to pause for a second. Here's another scene that had a profound impact on me, but not in the way that you might expect. You see, I accidentally watched the final season of Attack on Titan out of order. For some reason, I thought Dawn of Humanity was the first episode of the 4th season, and ended up watching it before the rest of the season. I actually didn't know it was supposed to be the second to last episode until I did a little research, and I actually think it works well as a first episode. While I was watching, I just thought this was a flash forward or prolepsis if you feel like pretending that you're a genius. But to see the world torn and destroyed to apocalyptic levels immediately after the uplifting season 3 finale gives off a very eerie feel, kind of like when I saw Days of Future Past in the X-Men cartoon when I was a kid. Everything is as you remember it, but twisted, warped, and evil. But nothing I saw, not even the genocide of Marleyans as the rumbling crushed towns and people unmasked, could prepare me for when Captain Levi made his appearance in the second to last episode. Levi Ackerman is more or less the icon of the anime. He is unquestionably the greatest warrior in the show, and that by a long shot. He is, in many ways, humanity's hope. He's also a bit of an oddball. He drinks his tea oddly, he is irritable, antisocial, and short. But at odds where every other main character would be backed into a corner and killed, Levi endures tenfold and survives. The power between him and everyone else is the difference between a demon slayer Hashira and Zenitsu. Throughout the anime, Levi has never, ever been seriously wounded or injured. His greatest challenges are tasks that would be impossible even for a team of 20 scouts. Nothing phases him. The show acted like he was invincible, and he behaved like it. The highest rated anime episode on IMDb, Hero, is from Attack on Titan, and it features Levi's greatest feat yet. Levi is a symbol of hope. So, imagine my horror when a nearly mummified Levi Ackerman stumbles down the stairs, almost too weak to stand, barely able to grip his weapons, having to be held back by Armin, who claims he's not fit to fight. Words cannot describe the feeling I had while watching the scene. Levi was humanity's champion, humanity's hope, so good that he had literally never been beaten. To see him reduced to a pathetic, feeble imitation sucked the hope out of me. Levi was the absolute, the god, the one character in this show who couldn't be beaten, phased, discouraged, wounded, or killed. Even the likes of Reiner and Eren would come close to death many times, but never Levi. To see him in this state brought the stakes swinging back into perspective like twin hammers. If Levi could be brought this low, what might happen to the other characters? And at this point, I had made it to the very last episode. There was nothing left to do but sit down and... Wait, what? The final episode isn't out yet? For the time being, at least, my binge was stopped in its tracks. Needless to say, I was very, very eagerly awaiting the final installment, but obviously, wait was all I could do, so I waited. Finally, after over half an hour of me spewing random shit into a microphone, do we finally get to the final episode. This has been, man, one of the craziest rides I've ever been on. After watching the final episode, I can say with absolute certainty that Attack on Titan is a once-in-a-lifetime experience. So if you made it to this point in the video without actually watching the damn show for yourself, then shame on you. You have no idea what you're giving up. But I'm sure the question you all have in your minds now is the final episode of Attack on Titan good? And the answer is yes, no, sort of. You see, just as an episode on its own, it's not actually too impressive. I mean, don't get me wrong, the characters are there, the music is on point, the animation is just god tier. I mean, come on, guys, the way the episode is structured, you could have Eren dead in like the first 10 minutes. Thunder spear to the teeth, rocket inside his mouth, chop off his head, the end. Like, I'm surprised it was that simple in the final moments of the episode, and I just thought, like, why didn't you do this earlier? But, I mean, I can't really be all that cynical here. I mean, where Attack on Titan kind of falters in the writing department, it makes up for it in
just about literally everything else.
As I said, the music is inspired, the characters are just all there, and the animation is just look at this shit. In short, the final episode of Attack on Titan is really a picture of the show as a whole. It may not always have the greatest writing ever, but it will always have those heart-wrenching moments of emotional tension and drama. And damn, I think that's fucking beautiful. So to bring all this to a close, I guess it's only fitting for me to tell you the point that I've been building up to this entire time. Why fictional stories about fictional characters in made-up places fighting fictional monsters in battles that never happened can be so real to us. Which is that even though stories deal with fictional places and fictional people and fictional conflicts, the ideas and emotions expressed in good art are very much real. Marleyans and Eldians never really existed, but once upon a time in a pre-World War II Germany, there existed two groups of people who were very similar. You see what I'm saying here? The reason why art is so universally compelling is because it appeals to the most human sides of us. These conflicts, these emotions, these dilemmas are something that humanity has struggled with and continues to struggle with. Even now in the Middle East, they are having their own attack on Titan, as it were. And all of this is present not just in art, but in Attack on Titan. And that is, I guess what you could say, what actually makes stories real. It's when a great artist wants to channel the pain, the suffering, and the dejectedness of the human condition into a beautiful art form. It's when many musicians band together to write a beautiful song about the suffering of humanity. It's when animators put aside their differences to bring life to a world plagued by so much pain and suffering. It's when writers want to tell us a tale of humanity's resolve to never stop living. It's when an amateurish manga writer decides to make a story about titans and humans. This is Attack on Titan, a tale of humanity, a song of sound and fury. In my words, a gosh damn masterpiece. Thank you for watching.
No! No! No, you gotta be fucking kidding me!
Wait, this video is not over yet? What the hell, dude? Like, why can't we just be done already? Okay, guys, this video has been weeks, if not months in the making. I have done a lot of planning, a lot of writing, a lot of recording, and a lot of editing on this video. So, if you enjoyed at all, just please drop a like, maybe subscribe if you want to. Attack on Titan changed my life. I know that kind of sounds silly, but I mean, it did. So I just had to make my longest, biggest, hardest to edit video yet to show how much I love this gosh damn show. So again, thank you for watching, and please have a nice day.